had an idea. Last season, we were kind of toying around the idea of making a coot spread, and we're really trying to make confidence decoys, especially for the late season. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take 2 dozen of some old decoys that I've ran before, or I've just straight up found, like these guys, people that get left behind, you find them in the toolies. And we're gonna make a long line coot spread out of them. This is also kind of like a DIY long line video too. So all I'm gonna do is take 200 feet or less of PVC decoy line. Just picked that up from Sportsman's for like 15 bucks. And then I went to Walmart, and for $1 each, I picked up an 8-pack. 1, 2, 3. 3 times 8 is 24. 24 decoys that I'm gonna use over there. And these are just barrel swivels that are interlocking that I can just put on the keel of the decoy. And then I'm just gonna run this little eyelet through that, and then just tie them off every 1.5 to 3 feet or so. Not even gonna be consistent with it. I'm gonna make 2 different sets though, so that it is a 1 dozen line. So I'll have 2 1 dozen lines that I can kind of maneuver things with instead of 1 24 decoy line. All right, now I got my 12 portioned off here, 12 portioned off there. Make sure you get them on first. And I'm gonna run probably a good 40, 50 feet of line here first. So I want to have my line already off this first. So I'm just gonna honestly guesstimate it and just get myself a ton of line off this. No idea how that long is, but now I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna tie something really heavy to the end of this so that it would be my anchor on one side. Found this old rusted socket that I'm never gonna use, so I'm just gonna use this as my decoy anchor. So now I have my end of the line. I just have a bolt and nut that kind of tied down to the actual socket in there. Have it all tied off so it's a nice heavy weight. I threaded all these 12 right here that I'm going to use for this first one, and then I just ran the line all the way to the other side of my garage and then just tied it up over here. So I have a working point. So I'm going to string all of these along this whole thing at various distances. I'm going to give myself enough room so that I can run a decent water depth. What I like to do is just kind of take your first one right here, start at the weight that you know, or the water level that you know you normally hunt. So for me, I'm not really gonna hunt much more than chest high like this, so I'm right about chest high for this. And then it also gives a little bit of leeway to go from that as well. But this is gonna be my first one right here. All I'm gonna do is take this so that your decoy is not sliding up and down. Or you could crimp it, or you can just tie little knots along it, that's fine too. And I'm gonna do that all the way down. Cool, so ended up doing probably about 40 feet worth. I actually did like 10 of them on there, and the other one I'm gonna make a little more dense. But every few feet, they have a barrel swivel with a knot, and so it's not gonna go anywhere. I can pull it tight, not gonna move. And I have that every little bit. Across this. And I just have it tied off at the end here. Have this one all wound up. Just got another one that I found that I'm not going to use. I'm just going to make another one. Make sure to put all of these guys on first though. Here we go. So now I have 2 portable long line systems that I'm just going to attach to these, hang up in the backyard, and then I got to go buy some spray paint to make them all coots. So I have these posts in my backyard, and all I'm gonna do is just take this, hang around that, and I'm gonna run both of these lines all the way down the edge. Right here, 2 lines, back to back, like a clothesline, and then I could just come over and hang the decoys one at a time and spray them. So, ran a little problem. When it gets so hot outside, the PVC line actually breaks. It's not my knots that are breaking, it's not the swivels that are breaking, it's the actual line just pulling like tight knots and it's just snapping. So it's 100 degrees. I suggest not doing it in 100-degree weather outside. Something else that I did was I realized that I could just kind of stretch them out and put them up on these chairs so that it's kind of hanging off the ground. So it makes it easier for me to paint them. I did that for both sides over here. You don't have to do that. Just take a piece of tarp or a piece of wood, put all your decoys out, spray them down, and then snap them onto the swivels. Because other than that, you're gonna end up with blisters, you're gonna try and tie knots. It's just not ideal. So I messed up, it's my mistake, but at least it's all strung up now. And I'm gonna go get some paint and paint them. All right, so I went and ran some errands, got some paint, and I got the Rust-Oleum flat protective enamel. And from what I read, you gotta get the flat so it doesn't have a gloss to it. So a lot of guys might use this actual paint to flock their decoys with. I'm not actually gonna flock them, I'm just gonna use the same paint for it. So hopefully it gives it a nice, flat, very low sheen to them. I'm gonna start with doing the actual bills of it with the white. It's okay to go a little over because you're gonna go over with the black later anyway.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Now after hitting all 24 bills, come through with the black paint, finish them up. All right, 2 dozen Coot decoys down. Had to go to Home Depot and get more paint too, so that kind of conked out of me, but I would recommend 2.5 cans of flat, has to be flat paint, and then probably a can of the white. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take some red paint. Hey, what's red and smells like blue paint? Red paint. Dad jokes. And I'm gonna paint all the eyes on there. This is how it's gonna look. And that is 2 dozen all along the fence line, even with painted eyes. 2 dozen floater recycled decoys that was either given to me, I found laying around in the marshes, old decoys I never used. So really not much of an expense used on the actual decoy part of it, but I spent about 50 bucks for the lines, the swivels, snaps, and the paint total. Something I would do again differently, I would not do it in this 102-degree heat. I would wait probably to closer to season till it's cooler, because the line, the PVC line, definitely stretched out a lot and it snapped a couple times. I was just sitting inside, just kind of like staring out the window a little bit ago, and I watched it just kind of drop and snap, so I had to retie some of them. So hopefully keep it in the shade on the fence line will help me keep it together a little bit better. And I'm just gonna let them dry overnight, and yeah, I have 2 dozen Coot decoys now, and I think with the 200 feet and with a couple more cans of spray paint, more swivels, maybe for like a total of $60, you can probably do about 4 dozen of these. So thanks for watching, guys. That's how I DIY'd my long line decoys and also coot spread. We'll see how it works this season.